Hey guys, what's happening? Todd Liles here, Service Excellence Training, and thank you for joining me for this live talk. I got a couple topics that I want to talk to you about today, and we're going to mix it up a little bit as well. We're going to have your questions answered live. But one of the things that I want to talk about is average tickets, specifically what we refer to as a true average ticket, because there is a difference between an average ticket versus a true average ticket. And then for the folks in here that have some management and some ownership side of things, I want to talk to you about marketing costs, expected returns. And if you'll hang with me, if you'll visit with me just a little bit longer, I'm also going to talk to you about addiction and suicide in the trades. So the topics for today, and of course your topics as well, right? We're going to talk about true average tickets. How do you come to those conclusions? How do you figure those things out? What are some KPIs that you should be looking for? Marketing costs and returns, and boom, as well as addiction in the trades. Now, do me a favor. I love to know that you're here. I love to interact with you. So as you come on board, you know what to do. You know where that thumbs up button is. Hit that thumbs up button. Your name will pop up. I'll see it. If you have a question, then drop your question in the comments, and I will address that for you as well. So the first thing that I want to talk with you guys about is true average ticket. And here's a question that I have for anyone that is listening. Do you know the difference between a true average ticket versus what I refer to as an inflated average ticket? If you think you know the difference, then just type me yes or no. Brad Snyder, my man. I'm addicted to HVAC. Hey, Brad, by the way, I called you back yesterday. Hope you got that voice message. We'll tag team after this at some point. Glad to see you on here. Brad, I still got to get that amazing video that you did in the classroom just showing people the ins and outs, edited and uploaded, because that's going to be a big help to folks. All right, so let's talk about the true versus inflated average ticket. And it's really, really simple. Whether you're running service calls, whether you're running drain calls, whether you're going to electrical calls, or whether you're running air conditioning replacement, roofing replacement calls, it doesn't matter. If you get a number of opportunities, let's say that those opportunities are 10. You get 10 ops, and you go on 10 ops, then whatever you close, let's say you closed 7 of those, right? I see you, Adam. Thank you for your question. I'll get to you in a moment. Let's say you close 7 of those. Then what we know right out of the gate is we'd say, hey, we got a 70% close ratio. We'd all accept that to be the truth. But now let's say that inside of this, in terms of total sales, let's say that we're talking about a service item, okay? And let's say that out of the service item, we generated, let's call it, well, heck, let me just do some math here. I'll come up with a good number. So let's say that we generated in total revenue $4,200. All right? So my question is, what is our average ticket? What is our average ticket? Now, remember I said true versus inflated, right? And by the way, as you come on, let me know you're here. Give me a thumbs up. Ask your question. We're going to get them all addressed. So what is your true average on this? Well, here we go. You can do 2 things. One is you can divide this by 7, or the other is that you can divide this by 10. Now, what most people will do is they'll artificially inflate it. They'll say, hey, I got a 70% closing ratio, and if I divide my $4,200 in service by 7, then what I have is I have a $600 average ticket. Let me double check the math on that. 7 times 642. But that's not the truth. The truth is that the average ticket is $4,200 divided by 10. All right? So that's the true average ticket, which is an average ticket of $420. Now, does it matter? Yeah, I think it matters. Because when you're talking to someone, especially when you're visiting with someone in this online forum, or maybe you're a business owner and you're talking to another business owner and you say, hey, what's your average ticket? And he goes, we're a $600 average ticket. And in your mind, you're thinking, well, we're at 420, but that's our true average. You don't realize that? Then you're not talking the same numbers. So I think that you got to know what's the difference between true versus inflated, and you got to be able to work off that. And by the way, obviously, right, as we work on our closing percentage, and as that goes up, our average, true average ticket should go up with it as well. It should, If our average is going way up, and by the way, this is something that I do see as I study financials, oftentimes you'll see closing percentages begin to rise and true average tickets begin to drop, which is fascinating because there usually is a balancing point. Depending upon what you're selling, right? There usually is a balancing point. If I'm offering service and I'm getting close to what we call our KPI, Key Performance Indicator, some people call them KRA, Key Results Area, right? If I'm getting close to that, then I'm probably going to find a balance point to where I've got the maximum average ticket, true average ticket with the maximum closing percentage, and you kind of want to find like where that's at. If your closing percentage is off the charts and your average ticket's really low, you're probably actually not charging enough. There's usually a balance point. Okay, let me go to a question, and then we'll come back and we'll hit marketing a little bit. By the way, as you're coming on board, Kimmy, I see you. Thank you for the thumbs up. Guys, do me a favor, too. Let's get this group growing. Hit the share button. Put them out there into your communities. That would be fantastic. Jeremy, I see you. Brian, I see you. All right, cool. Brad, you wrote reset the call. I'm not really sure what reset the call means. If I'm missing something, let me know there. But Adam Hamilton, how do you handle a lead when no decision maker is present? You set a new opportunity to go visit with the decision maker. That's the super short version of it. But we can do a longer version of that as well because there's probably more to your question there. So I'm going to unpack it a little bit. So hang on a second. Let me erase the backside of this board. This was some training from some earlier stuff that I did explaining failure, which some of you guys might find interesting. But I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Adam's question is, what do you do when you go on a lead and there's no decision maker there? Okay, so here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a visual. I love this visual because it helps out when you're really contemplating and breaking this down. So if we take a visual, first thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to draw a little foggy area. Consider that a smoke screen, Adam. And then inside of there, I'm going to draw this block of truth. All right? It's the real issue at hand. So sometimes when you hear someone, say that they need to talk to somebody else, sometimes it's literally the block of truth. It's the core issue at hand, and you've got to find a way to work with that block. You got to find a way to, put some casters underneath it and get it rolling, which may mean you got to set the lead for the decision maker. However, sometimes when you hear that, it's not really the truth. It's a smoke screen, Adam. So part of what you got to do is you got to start digging in, and you've got to get to the root of what the real issue is. And it depends on what level you're at. Because if you're into a replacement opportunity, as Brad would tell you, Brad's going to find that out super, super early, way before the price comes out, before it gets weird. Because if you wait too long and you start getting with those type of objections late into the call, then you're in troublesome issue. You're going to find out super early. On the service side of things, reschedule the call, and when they are home, you'll only get one time to present your company's message. Boom. It's the very first thing that I started with, right, which is just reschedule the call, which is a super simple way to do that. And to ask early and discover who all needs to be connected and involved in the process. By the way, don't be worried about offending the person by asking that question. It won't be offensive if you handle it right. And more importantly, you're not going to sell the daggum thing if you don't ask those questions. I've got some great footage from Brad from one of the classes. I'm going to have to get that up here sometime soon. So, Adam, how do you handle it? You handle it early. You handle it in the beginning. You reset it when it's a true condition. When it's not a true condition, you tackle it. We can do a lot more on that. If you want a little bit more, check out the free objection download book. You can find that on our website, which is called How to Obliterate the 5 Sales Objections from Your Work Week. That'll help you out. Okay, guys, true average ticket, going back to that real fast, real brief, real review, real quick. When you're talking about your averages, make sure you're talking your true. Don't go inflated. Inflated doesn't count the zeros. You got to count the zeros. You got to add that into the mix. It's important. Now let's roll over some business owners. By the way, if you're a technician, you're listening to this, don't leave in this next section. This is important. I promise you. This is about you because it's about those leads that you're getting. And it's about the expense and the cost of what it costs to actually get someone to say, hey, come do business with me. So don't go anywhere. You need to hear this. If you're a business owner, share this section with your team. Your guys need to know this because Oftentimes, guys think that leads are abundant and they're easy to come by, and they're not. They're not necessarily abundant or easy to come by, or if they are fairly easy to come by, they can be very costly. They can be real costly indeed. So let me show you something. Let's imagine that we put together a marketing campaign with a company. By the way, let me know some of the campaigns you're using. You guys as a company are probably using pay-per-click. You're probably using Yellow Pages. You might be doing direct mail. You could be doing any number of things. But let's go with a marketing campaign. Let's say we're going to do a pay-per-click campaign. And most of the time when you see pay-per-click campaigns, right, what they usually will do is some relatively inexpensive entry. So some big discount or some low, dollar amount service item, pardon me. Usually it's not very costly, right, for the consumer. So you go out there, you're competing with all the other companies. You've got a person that might be of like a little bit of a price shopping mentality. He's looking through, he sees your offer, whatever your offer is. Let's say it could be a $99 drain cleaning offer. It could be a $39 water heater tune-up offer. It's something relatively inexpensive. So that's the offer to the customer, right? Is we got a $39 some kind of offer. I'm just going to write that down right there. Now, you got to get that offer to be clicked upon. So now someone, clicks on that offer, and maybe it's fill out a form, or maybe it's, track a phone call. But your pay-per-click campaign is going to track that as an action. They're probably going to call that a lead. And they're going to say, okay, hey, we sent you a lead. Now, what I have found, and it varies greatly, right? It depends on a lot of different things. But I have found that those costs can range, depending upon the type of lead it is, anywhere from $45 to $99 to more just to get the phone to ring in the office. So literally, if you go and you look at the analytics on a lot of these back-end campaigns, what you'll see, service techs, this is something you got to know, what you'll see is to get that tune-up offer, it might have literally cost $45 to make the phone ring. Now check this out and let this blow your mind. And by the way, $45 is super, super conservative. That's really, really, inexpensive compared to some that I've seen. Remember, we got a $39 offer, okay? So here we go. So check this out. So the client clicks on the offer. Costs $45 to make the phone ring. That phone goes into the office. Ring, ring, ring. Now the CSR answers the phone. It ain't booked yet, right? Now we got to book the thing. So. And it varies as well as theirs. Some CSRs are really crushing that. Woo, Brad, $383 is ours. So I'm assuming that's for your replacement leads. But Brad's got a $383 cost per call, if I understand that correctly. And by the way, $400, $450 is what I see on replacement lead gens. So we got a CSR that's got to be on the other side of the call. Now, guys, I've heard different varieties of people on pay-per-clicks. But what I'm going to share with you is that what companies are going to average is somewhere between a 45 to 65% call to close ratio on these low-end competitive pay-per-click offers. Now, I'm not saying there's not some companies that are doing a lot better than that. I mean, if your company calls you, you better be booking it in the high 90s if it's a client, an existing client. But a lot of times on these first time, no value in your company, you could be anywhere from 45 to 65%, sometimes higher. Some folks are able to get into the 70s. But most marketing companies will tell you they'll get you 75, 85%. And after studying a lot of financials and a lot of company books, I find that that's not necessarily the case on average. But let's say that we go in, we'll go in the middle at 55%, okay? So if it costs this just to get the call, now we'll just go 50%. It'll be easy. Now what I got to do is I got to get a technician out there. So if I divide 45 by 0.5, then what I've got is I've got $90 pre-invested in the actual cost just for marketing before we even pay a tech, before we even send someone out there. Now, guys, that is super critical that you guys know that, because what it does, if you're sitting in a technician position, it at least lets you know how far the company is willing to go to get you into a call. Now, guys, I know as well as you know that not every home you're going to go into is going to have abundant opportunities. But I also know that most homes that we go into have plenty of opportunities. They have legitimate things that need to be taken care of. They have people that have allergies that need indoor air quality help, or people that have sensitivity to the water because of the chlorine, like my family. They need water filtration help. But what I can fundamentally, at the end of the day, tell you is the following, is that if we can't cover the cost of going and seeing that client and then some so that we can earn a profit, then eventually what happens is these type of calls are going to dry up and go away. We'll have to stop doing that. Now, what do we need to be earning on this? So I'm getting really deep into some business lessons here, right? So if we take a look at this, and this is where a lot of companies won't do these type of calls because they're able to maintain their business at something like a 4.5%, 6% cost for marketing. Well, what you find in these new markets like this is that, I mean, if you're really killing it, you can get 10% cost of marketing. Most companies are going to be at 20% or higher. Now, the math kind of goes in inverse in that way, right? So if I'm able to keep this call cost to 10%, that means that my technician is going to bring in an average of $900. Now, true average, not artificially inflated. Remember, true average ticket, which means I'm going to count my zeros, I'm going to count my non-closing percentages. If it costs me $90 to go on that call, I got to bring in a true average ticket of $900 if that's what my goal is. If I'm sitting at 20%, right, which means I'm accepting a much higher cost to call ratio, well, then I'm going to be sitting at a true average ticket of $450. So that kind of sets an expectation where you kind of go, okay, I know what we're looking at. And somewhere in between here, we're hoping that what we can do is we can lock in a client, because even if it costs us this 20%, which we're not going to make any money off that immediately, if we can lock that client in with a club call, if we can get them on a club membership, a service agreement, whatever it is that you guys are using language-wise there, then what we've done is we've essentially acquired a client for the essence of the cost of going out there, and we've covered our overhead. And that's a good deal. I'll make that trade with you as a business owner. So why did I want to cover true average tickets and marketing cost and returns? Because, love it, Brad, every call is an opportunity. I agree. They're calling for a reason, no question. No question. So all these things are connected. And if you as a business owner begin to look at it as connected, you begin to break down your cost per marketing opportunities, and you begin to look and say, what do we need to do to break even on these calls? What do we need to do if we're going to elevate our risk in terms of allow, a less marketing return? Then how can we make sure that we're locking these people into a club member? How do we realize that once we've paid for that phone call once, that we want to set up proactive things on the backside so that we just don't lose them and that's the end of it? If we've got their phone number, we should find new and creative ways to market to these people. And if we do that, then we're going to be in a good position. By the way, thank you guys for all being here. We've gotten to 20 so far. I love it. Keep hitting that like button. Keep hitting that share button. I want to field another question from the audience. And man, Brad, I'm going to have to figure out one day how to get you in here. Brad is such a wealth of knowledge, guys, and generous, talented. The issue with Brad is that he's so talented is that he is always out there closing calls, which isn't an issue. It's a good thing. But Brad shared some information with us. I'll get that up there, Brad, and we'll get that out there for you. The last thing that I want to talk to you guys about, and hopefully I won't lose a bunch of you, but the last thing I want to talk to you about is addiction, and I want to talk to you about suicide in the trades. I know, not very sexy. But this is what I know without knowing like actual numbers. I don't know the actual numbers. I've never seen how these rates are in our trades alone. But what I know is in my time as working as a coach and consultant, I know I've lost people that I care about to addiction, to suicide. And obviously I'm not going to say who those people are. That's not the topic for this. But I've lost those people, and sometimes it was a complete and total, well, let me phrase that, all times, to me, it was a complete and total surprise. Usually there's somebody that it wasn't necessarily a surprise to, but it was a surprise to me. And what I can share with you is that if you're listening to this, know a couple things, okay? And I know everybody's got really deep opinions on this, and there's a lot of judgment that comes with addiction and mental health issues. And some people will say addiction is just weakness, and so is mental health issues. And guys, I'm going to tell you, no, it's not. It's something different in most cases. It's something that's hard for you to understand if you don't have those issues. It's a real issue that most people just literally on their own cannot control, and there's no shame in that. It is what it is. Now, it has very strong consequences. Both of those things have very strong consequences to the person that is suffering with it and to the lives that are connected to them. So I'm just going to just let you know, I'm not a medical professional. I don't really know how to handle those things. But this is what I want to do is I just want to speak to whoever might be listening to this down the road right now, whatever the case may be. And I'm just going to talk to you that's suffering the downside of it. Maybe you've lost someone, or maybe you've been in a really bad situation because of someone you cared about that are struggling with that. So I'm just going to speak to you because I've been in your shoes. First of all, don't let guilt take over your life. It's not your fault that person was dealing with that. And try not to judge them too harshly as well. The real goal here is to heal. If you've lost someone, oh goodness gracious, if you've lost someone to suicide, don't take that burden of guilt upon yourself. There's probably no way that you could have seen that coming. Don't let that happen. Don't let that guilt eat you alive. It's not worth it. Seek healing. Talk to people that are skilled at this, professional counsels, and let them help you work through it. If it happens at your company, I advise you to go out and find a counselor that could come in and have a group conversation with the team. Your team's going to be shocked. You're going to need to heal from that. If you find someone is suffering from addiction, again, I know I'm certainly not skilled to try to change that in someone's life. I bet you're not either. Find the help for that. And I'll make sure that I post some post lines in here. But what I would tell you is that if you kind of know that folks might be struggling with those things, my best recommendation to you is try to get them to get the help that they need. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to speak to how you legally handle that. I have no clue. That's not my field. And, you can or cannot take my advice, but don't take it as paid professional legal advice. All I'm going to say is that I know that there are people that are hurting, and if you can help them, try to help them. All right? And if you need a little bit more, you can check out the website. I just put a post up there, and there's some phone numbers and some people that you could call. All right. So sorry about that, but it's been on my heart, and, man, I just don't want to lose any more good tradespeople to it. I guess that's the main thing I'm trying to make here. All right, guys, you guys are awesome. I'm going to give you guys a moment to put one more question in, and I'll tackle one more question if I see it in time. If I miss the question, I don't see it in time, I'll apologize to you, and we can tackle it at another point in time. But I'm going to give you just a few moments. If you got another question, leave it. And while I'm waiting on that, I will let you know, November 6th through the 8th, we have our sales program and our tech program. Love to see you there. The 6th and the 7th, we've got a program for CSRs, although I think it's only got like 2 or 3 seats left in it. If you got a CSR that needs some training, grab that quick before it's gone. And then Thursday and Friday, which I guess that would be the 9th and the 10th, we've got 2 programs running at the same time. One for business owners. We're calling it the Owner Series / Business Ignition Series. And then we've got one for managers. And if you've got someone on your team that you want to be a manager, then getting them to this manager program now would be great for them. If you've got someone on your team, if you're a business owner, and you want your manager to maybe one day be part of the succession plan, then this is a great program to start getting them bought into that so that they'll have, pardon me, the mindset for future succession. So what you think about those programs? They're really good opportunities. All right, I see any questions come in. Thank you guys for being on here. Man, I sure do appreciate it. It's because of guys like you that we're able to do these things. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit the share button. Hit the share button. And as always, you know what to do. Go out there, turn learning into earning.